Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to install an ESXi host into vCenter. This is called a nested ESX environment. So the first thing we're going to do is look at our data stores. Inside the data stores, I've already uploaded the file, the ISO file for ESXi 6.5. It's important that we upload it here first before we create the new virtual machine. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at our virtual machines view. So I have a folder here for my nested ESXi hosts. I'm going to right click and hit new virtual machine. So we have several options here, but we're going to just create a new virtual machine and hit next. We're going to name our virtual machine. This can be changed later. It's not tied to the actual server install. This is just tied to the VMware database. You're going to hit next. So then we're going to select where we want to put this. I currently have two hosts. These are actual physical hosts. I'm going to select the first one and hit next. And then we want to select what storage we want to put it on. I'm going to install it on an SSD that I have in my host. So here we're going to select what we're compatible with. We have ESXi 6.5, ESXi 6.7. Those are the most current releases. I'm going to use 6.7 because that's what I'm running. Here we're going to tell what the virtual machine is going to be. We're going to tell vCenter that we are installing ESX and we're installing version 6.5. Now it says it's not compatible or it's not recommended, not supported, but it does work. So here we're actually going to select our compute resources. First thing we're going to do is select CPU. Remember, because this is nested ESXi, we're going to, whatever we give this virtual machine is what's going to be available to any future virtual machines living in our ESXi environment. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. We can change this later. I'm going to select 8 CPUs. You see that when I change it to 4 cores per socket, it changes to 2 sockets from 4 sockets. It's just simple multiplication math. We're not going to hot plug, and then we are going to select hardware virtualization. So next we moved on to memory. Again, this is going to be the memory that's going to be available for not only the ESXi install, but also the future virtual machines that are going to be on this ESXi host. Next, we're going to choose our disk size. Now, this is the disk for the install, so it doesn't have to be very big. I think that ESXi installs on 2 gigs or less. I'm just going to do 10 gigs because we do have the space. In the future, you'll build data stores either through here or through another storage device. Next, we're going to look at networking. We always go with VX Max. And we're going to select our network. Now I've already got these pre-configured. In future videos, I will show you how to configure the networks. I'm going to select gateway. That is my internal network, and it is connected at power on. The next thing we're going to do is look at the CD drive. Now this is a virtual CD drive for the host. This is what we're going to load up our ISO on. So we're going to select the data store ISO file. We're not going to choose client device or host device. Those are the physical CD drives for either the client you're installing from or the host that your unnested ESXi lives on. So we're going to navigate to our data store where our ISO folder exists and select the VMware 6.5 ISO file. And next, we're going to make sure that it's connected when we power this virtual machine on. So that should be everything. We're going to hit next. This is where we can review all the changes we've made to the virtual machine itself, all the configurations, and click Finish. So it only takes a second to create the VMX file, which is the virtual machine file. We're going to navigate to that virtual machine. You can see all of the hardware resources that we've assigned to it in the summary. We're going to right-click Power and Power On. Again, this doesn't take very long. Here we can click on the thumbnail, and that actually loads up a virtual screen for us to view what's happening on the virtual machine. So right now it's going through and loading the installer application. Pretty much this is a live version of ESX that it's loading up for us to do the install on. Okay, and we're back, and this is the end of the process where it's loading the installer. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes. Here it's going to ask us if we want to continue with the installation. We're going to click Enter. Here's the EULA, so the End User License Agreement. You can read through this. It is informative, but you don't have to read through it every time you do an install. So we're going to hit F11 to continue. Next, it's going to scan for available drives. This is going to be the virtual drive that we set up. There it is. It's 10 gigs. We're going to hit Enter to continue. This is where we select the keyboard layout. I'm in the US, so I'm going to hit Enter because that is the default. Here's where you're going to enter your root password. So this is going to be the password for the host. So there is a caveat when using the virtualized remote console. Sometimes the key entries will do a double entry. So when you're entering your password, you do have to pay attention to that. So here it's telling us that the CPU might not be compatible in the future. We're going to skip through that, and we're going to confirm the install. So now we're going to install ESX. This takes about 5 minutes, and I'll be back when it's done. Okay, we are at the end of the actual ESXi 6.5 install. This last little bit goes through pretty quick. And there it is, installation complete. So it wants us to remove the installation media. So that's pretty easy to do. We're going to go back to vCenter, and we're going to select the virtual machine, the nested virtual machine, right click and go to Edit Settings. Once we're in the settings box, we're going to uncheck Connected for the CD/DVD drive. That just removes that device from the virtual machine, which is where our installer is. So the install media has been removed. So we're going to hit Enter, and it will proceed to reboot the server. So we're at the end of the reboot process. Here is the idle screen for ESXi. It's been this way since 3.0, I think. So we're going to hit F2 to go into the system settings. It's going to ask for our root login name and password. I'm going to hit Enter, and it takes just a second to pull that up. What we're going to do here is right now you see that I have DHCP IP address pulled from my DHCP network. We're going to set that to a static address. So here you can see your network adapters. Right now we just have one. So that's going to be our VMK management adapter and our VM virtual machine adapter. We can add another one later to the nested instance. So we're going to select IPv4 configuration and set static IP. You hit spacebar to actually select that. We're going to set our IP address to 10.10.10.17 because 10.10.10.0/24 is my network. Here's IPv6. We're going to leave that alone. In the DNS configuration, I have a domain controller. It's running Windows domain AD, and it's using Windows DNS. I'm going to add my secondary DNS server as well. That's going to be 10.10.10.251. You can use public IPs for your DNS, but I'm using internal DNS for this. And then I'm going to give this a host name. I'm going to name it Nested ESXi 01. You can see here a good example of how the remote console will sometimes do double entries. So that's all we need to do here. We can go ahead and hit escape. That's my custom DNS suffix for my Active Directory domain name. It's going to ask if we want to apply this. We're going to hit Y for yes, and it will apply and restart the management network. Here you have all the other options that you can kind of do in this console. You can get to the shell from here. It's under the troubleshooting options, but we're going to leave the rest of this alone for now. So we hit escape, and you can see here how to manage the host. It's either using the host name I gave it or the IP address, which I have already entered here. So because it uses HTTPS, it's going to give us a your connection is not secure alert. We're just going to add an exception here. I'm in Firefox. There are other ways to do it in other browsers, but I'm just going to confirm the security exception. If you want to go back later and add an SSL cert that is signed, you can do that as well. I'll probably cover that in a future video. So I'm going to sign in with root and the root password we created. You see that it came up pretty quickly. And I do not want to send information because I'm going to destroy this virtual machine soon anyway. And here you can see all the information about your host, just like it was a physical host. How many CPUs are available, how much memory is available, networking information. Here's your management, licensing. We're in an eval mode. You can add a license. I think it's a 60 or 90-day eval. You can extend it, however. Here's virtual machines. Here's storage. That is the data store that ESXi is installed on. We will go back and create other data stores at a future date. And that's it for now. Thank you for joining. I did want to say thank you for joining. If you liked this video, please subscribe. If you have any questions, please add them in the comments. I will be posting other videos soon.